Hey YouTube, Kira Qualia here, bringing you all my Cardfight Vanguard Overdress Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion deck profile for post-Clash of Heroes. This is the new encounter deck that we have to introduce in the latest Cardfight Vanguard booster set. This deck focuses on very Narukami-like aspects, giving us all the old support for Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion, all the iconic cards in the form of a new ride deck, and then being able to utilize all of these cards with our Dragon Empire nation that we have for the D format of Cardfight Vanguard. Definitely happy with the results of the deck. You can get the majority of what you need for this deck from the Clash of Heroes booster set on its own. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the ride deck. Our starter is Spark Kid Dragoon. When rode upon, if you went second, draw a card. The standard starter for D format. Our grade 1 is Red River Dragoon. When this unit is rode upon by a grade 2 card with only Narukami for its clan, search your deck for up to one Eternal Thunderbolt, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So Eternal Thunderbolt is our go-to order that we use with our Kaiser Vermillion. So being able just to have a search for that much-needed order into our hand is a definite boost with this grade 1. And also the additional grade 2 power in the form of Thunderstorm Dragoon. When rode upon by a grade 3 card with only Narukami for its clan, look at the top 7 cards of your deck. Choose up to one card with only Narukami for its clan, or one Eternal Thunderbolt from among them. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. So additional search power, but also giving us the added benefit of being able to add a Narukami card from those cards. So being able to add useful cards, like cards for our Persona Ride, or cards like Dragonic Death Scythe. You name it, we have plenty of targets in this deck for us to search with this grade 2. And then lastly, for the ride deck, the grade 3, or boss monster of the deck, Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion. Since we got the cross-ride versions for all the other decks in D format, I guess it's only a matter of time before we get Grand Ezel, and then the Blood as well for Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion. But I'm also curious if I want to start next with the orders or go for the grade 3s. I figured I'd save the orders for after the grade 1 spot. So for the grade 3s, running 3 additional copies of Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion. On the Vanguard Circle, once per turn, you can Soul Blast, or not Soul Blast, Counter Blast 1. Choose 2 of your units with only Narukami for their clan. They get plus 5,000 to end of turn. Until the end of turn, when this unit will attack, choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards, and this unit battles all the units of the chosen rear guard and your opponent's Vanguard. So it doesn't even have to attack the front row units. It just says choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards. So if you use some of your other cards in the deck to take out other rear guards, you can at least use Kaiser Vermillion to then target the other 2 cards and attack into those units along with your opponent's Vanguard, taking out those cards with not a retire by card effect, but just a swing with your Vanguard. And on Vanguard, once per turn, at the end of the battle this unit attacked, if you played a normal order this turn and your opponent's damage zone has 4 or less cards, discard a card from your hand and choose one of your opponent's Vanguard and deal 1 damage to it. This is where the search for our Eternal Thunderbolt comes in very handy, because then you have the damage inflicting card effect to your opponent that can just add to the pressure of your deck altogether by swinging for that additional damage to your opponent's Vanguard with your Kaiser Vermillion. Moving on now to the grade 2s, I run 3 additional copies of Thunderstorm Dragoon, being another card to potentially target for its own search effect with the Vanguard reveal and search power. On the rearguard, when placed on rearguard, if you have a Vanguard with only Narukami for its clan, you can soul charge 1, and this unit gets plus 5,000 to end of turn. So it helps to build up the soul with some other cards we may need for our Soul Blast power in the deck. So this is a definite 3-of for the rearguard support as well. With our other grade 2 option, now this can be one of 2 cards. It all depends on if you want to go for more of a budget route or more of the pricier normal order search. So you can either run Drag Ritter Latifa or the Drag Ritter Kasim, both having either the power-up option or search power, with Latifa when it's placed on rearguard other than by a unit's card ability. If you played a normal order this turn, Soul Blast 1, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, choose up to 1 card with grade less than or equal to your Vanguard from among them, reveal it, call it to rear, and if it's a unit card, and put it into the hand if it is a normal order. So you can search out normal orders with this one, which is a definite 4-of in the deck, but I don't know what the price will officially be for it. Normally, these generics can be quite pricey. So if you want to go for more of a budget option, you can run Dragonic Chasm instead. You bind this unit, choose up to 2 face-up cards from your opponent's bind zone, and your opponent puts those cards on the bottom of their deck in any order. If you chose 2 cards for this effect, choose one of your Vanguards and gets plus 5,000. While more of a budget option, we do have some other cards that bind for the playstyle, like our Dragonic Death Scythe in the deck to begin with for that option. And then also having those plays, it's more of the budget play style, but whatever one you prefer, you can run the 4 of in the deck for certain. And then also the 3 copies of Dragonic Death Scythe. This may be a 4 of. If I were to do so, you can drop the number of the grade 2 I previously spoke of before. During your turn, if your opponent's front row has no rear guards, it gets plus 5,000, making it a great card to attack with after your Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion clears out your opponent's front row with its own card ability. And on rear guard, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with only Narukami for its clan, Soul Blast 2, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and bind it. If you do not bind a card, you draw a card. So even if they don't have any rear guards to bind, you at least have draw power in the form of this card, just needing the Soul Blast power, which you can also build up with cards like your Thunderstorm Dragoon to do so. For the grade 1s, along with the 1 in the ride deck, I'm running 3 copies of Red River Dragoon. When this unit is rode upon by a grade 2 card with only Narukami for its clan, search your deck for up to 1 Eternal Thunderbolt, reveal it, put it in your hand. We already went over the ride deck effect. But on rear guard, when this unit boosts, if you have a grade 3 or greater Vanguard with only Narukami for its clan, counterblast 1, choose one of your opponent's back row rear guards and bind it. If you do not bind a card, you may soul charge 2. So it also helps for more of the soul charge power. But the bind can also make use with either of the other grade 2s that I mentioned before, and then just the soul charge power to work with some of the other grade 2s we run in the deck also. And then also 4 copies of Rising Phoenix. From the drop zone, when any card is bound during your turn by your card effect, if you have a Vanguard with only Narukami, Soul Blast 1 and call this card to rear guard, so it's rear guard setup power, and on rear guard, retire this unit. Choose one of your units, it gets plus 5,000 until end of turn. So you can provide power to other units while also be able to call this card back quite easily, just when any card is bound during your turn by a card effect to reset up some column structure for your cards also. For the last of the grade 1s, 4 copies of Twin Buckler Dragon. If you wanted to run Elementaria Sanctitude, you can always take out 1 copy of this card for a copy of that Blitz order also. And for the orders that we run in the deck, 4 copies of Eternal Thunderbolt, our main go-to order that we run in the deck. This card can only be played from drop, and play this card if you have a Vanguard with Vermillion in its card name. Only for Narukami for its clan. Choose one of your Vanguards. Until end of turn, it gets continuous Vanguard when your opponent's rear guard is hit by this unit and would be retired from rear guard. Bind it instead of retiring. And on Vanguard, if your opponent has no rear guards, all your front row rear guards get plus 5,000. If you played this card from drop, bind this card. So it can be played from the drop, so you have the additional option for the drop zone to have this card as a discard cost, so you can save other cards in your hand if you do need to discard this card. With the last of the orders that we run being 2 copies of A Serious Fight. You play this card with the Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's front row rear guards, retire it, and at the end of the turn, discard a card from your hand to choose A Serious Fight from your drop zone and put it into your hand. So it just helps with some other orders to, rely on for some of the other cards we run in the deck to then be able to add it back to your hand. At least means as long as we have the soul, we also have a card that can take out one of our opponent's cards each turn also, and then get rid of another card in our hand to potentially add it back. I run the 2 just in case one of them does get hit in the damage zone, but a nice backup if we also don't have the Eternal Thunderbolt to use. And then for the trigger lineup, going with the 7 criticals, so the 4 copies of Blaze War Monk Sogyu, and the 3 Conduct Spark Dragon for the added critical pressure, and then also the 4 Flare Veil Dragon. I thought about running the front trigger in this spot. You do have the pressure buildup that you can use with some of the other cards around the deck, so front triggers could potentially be a card to run as just more pressure for your rear guard attacks. It's player preference at that point, with the heals being 2 copies of Parasolis, the 1 copy of Cure Flare Draco Kid, and the 1 Stealth Fiend Amaviera for the heal combo to use for the specific numbers in the deck, with our over trigger being the Dragon Deity Dragveda for the restand power of our Vanguard, just to restand Kaiser Vermillion and attack once more. With it adds even more pressure. Even though the cards are once per turn, you do still have a restanding Vanguard to swing into your opponent's Vanguard with for added pressure, on top of the fact that this card could have dealt it 1 damage and then attack again. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoy. Definitely very excited for both of the encounter decks. Also excited to potentially be filming some games with both the Ezel and the Kaiser Vermillion decks as well. So look forward to it. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Qualia out.